Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. If you've been watching my channel, then you know that I've been super pressed for time. And so I'm going to do a tournament report. I don't have time to write one. I'm a slow writer, and I would just never have the time to actually write one. And so unfortunately, one of the tournaments was over 2 weeks ago. So I don't have a ton of tournament notes, but I'll do my best to just kind of do a quick synopsis of what I played and how things went. So I'm just going to get right into it because I only have just under 25 minutes before I have to be in a meeting. Okay, so I played this list in Geneva. There was 108 players. And also, I would like to show you guys how I would sideboard in each matchup, but because I'm limited on time, I'm just going to kind of talk about it as much as I can. Okay, so the first matchup was against a guy named Greg. He was playing Abzan. It was a super weird match. He actually ended up being the tournament organizer for the tournament in Lyon, and that it made it cool. I was already going to go, but it made it cooler to kind of go and see him again because he was a nice guy and we had a good game and he did a really good job running the tournament in Lyon, or the team did. It was a weird game. He didn't have much removal round one, and for the removal he did have, I was just able to chain together 3 spell queller's, put 6 power into play, and kind of time walk him every time he tried to do something and kill him. That's not how things would normally go against Abzan. So don't depend on the matchups to play out like that. That's just how this one went. The second game was also super weird. Neither of us drew a removal spell the entire game. He had 2 Bobs in play, drew a million cards, never found a removal spell. I was able to just sit behind these. I played 2 or 3 Blade Splicers, so I had these golems that were making him unable to attack with any of his creatures. When that ended up finally happening, and I think I had 5 mana in play. So he hadn't been drawing any removal. He still couldn't kill anything. He still couldn't attack. I had an Ancestral Visions coming off next turn. If I was, I forget exactly how it worked, but it was something like if I tapped his team, drew a card, bolted him, and then Ancestral Visions kicked off, and I was then able to draw another. I had to draw a land and a bolt or something like that, and then I could alpha him, and with the colonnade, and that's what happened. I drew what I needed off the Ancestral Vision to kill him in one go. Obviously, he had taken quite a bit of damage off his Dark Confidants at that point. Super weird game. We didn't really get to play and Magic in the way play the matchup as it normally would have been played. So it is what it is. The second game was his name was Duarte or Jorge, super nice guy, and it was also Abzan. Game 1, if I remember, is kind of similar to the first. I was able to chain together a couple of spell quellers and shenanigans and beat him that way, and burn spells. Game 2, he smashed my face in with Tron the Last Troll. And in Game 3, he was new to Modern. He made a couple of mistakes. I don't know that, the mistake he made, I won one game because of it, but I was already in a good position in that match, so I don't know that I would have. I was at 14 life and killing him. And I don't know that, even if he hadn't made that mistake, I'm not sure how the matchup would have played out, but I think I still would have won that game. Round 3 of that match was against Paul, who says he watches my channel. So hi, Paul, if you're watching. And he also posts to the Blue White Red competitive group on Facebook. He was playing Blue White Control, but as I remember, it was more of a tap out version of Blue White Control. And I think that it just kind of matched up a little poorly to a deck that wanted to play at his end step. It kind of made all of his sorcery speed stuff a bit more awkward. And then in Game 2, he I can't remember exactly, but I feel like he might have had some awkward mana. Like I said, it was a while back. Just real quick, against the Jun against a green-black X deck, you generally want to get rid of the Quellers. And against Abzan, you don't want the Vendilion Clicks because they don't attack very well. You probably don't necessarily want them against Jund either. You could keep them in against Jund. You want to bring in the Ancestral Visions. You want to bring in the Cryptic Commands. In both matchups, you want to bring in Blade Splicers and Engineered Explosives. Because you're just you're getting grindier. And then you want to take out some number of your burn spells because they don't really kill anything. Against blue-white control, you want to bring in, it's very similar, although you want to leave in your spell Quellers, and against blue-white control, you probably just want to take out more like your Splicers because Wall of Omens makes them look pretty dumb, and you want to just attack them in the air, play your flash creatures, your card advantage spells, your dispels, your negate, cryptic command, stuff like that. And against blue-white control, I basically I start with 3 Helix and 4 Bolts. I don't keep any of it in. In Game 4, I played against Guillaume. He's a local player here in Geneva, and I think he was playing Burn. I think that the Burn matchup is in the favor of Flash, but not by a ton. It's probably like 60-40 at most. Whereas in the Geist deck, it's like, I feel like it's 70-30 or 75-25 even. In the Geist deck, you can like bolt their Goblin Guide, Helix their Eidolon, play Geist, and they're dead in 2 turns. This deck can't really do that. They can also Searing Blaze all of your creatures. He just really kind of wrecked me game 2. Game 1. Game 2, I gained 6 life and still lost. I made a mistake, or I think it's a mistake. At one point, I had Spell Quellered an uncounterable burn spell. I can't remember the name of it. It's like 1 and 2 red. And it can deal 4 damage to a creature or player. So I Spell Quellered it, and then at the end of the turn, I was like, should I flash in the Restoration Angel to put more power onto the battlefield? I decided that I wanted to, and that if he Searing Blazed my door's open and bugs are getting in. If he Searing Blazed my Spell Queller, that I didn't care because I was just going to kill him with a Restoration Angel, and at that point, if I was pressuring him, I was pretty sure I was going to win. But I didn't really know what the spell did, and he actually ended up shooting. So he Searing Blazed my Spell Queller, shot that, whatever the name of that card is, I can't remember now. It was played in Standard, I know that. And it's played in Legacy too, and Burn, obviously. But then he shot my Restoration Angel, and so I had 0 pressure, which gave him a lot of time. And then he managed to rip like 3 or 4 burn spells in a row the following turns and just killed me. I do think, like I said, I think the matchup's favored because I think that we just have a lot of cheap and positive ways to interact. We can kill all of their creatures with Path, Bolts, and Helixes. We can kill Eidolon and all of their important burn spells with 2 Spell Snares, and we bring in 2 Dispels, and we have 2 Negates and 2 Logic Knots, which are all kind of reasonable. So I think it's fine. I think in that matchup you want to board out your clunkier stuff, like your Cryptic Commands and probably your Restoration Angels, or at least like 2 Cryptics, a Resto, and you want to bring in the 2 Dispels and the Negate. I don't know that you necessarily want to overload on Blade Splicer, but it is nice that it can block their creatures. However, in this deck, what you're really trying to do is like Spell Queller one of their spells, and either you're trying to do it on your turn, on their turn if they tap out, so that they can't immediately kill the Queller, or you're going to try to have like a Spell Snare or a Dispel in your hand in addition to the Spell Queller so that they can't kill it. Because sometimes it's just awful. Like if you Spell Queller a Boros Charm and then they Searing Blaze it, and you take 7, and you spent 3, and you just took 7. It just seems terrible when that happens. So you got to navigate pretty carefully. I did lose, though, that one. That was my first loss. I was 3-0, and then I went 3-1. And then I played against Valakut, and Valakut in this deck feels relatively miserable. I didn't draw my Runed Halo, but what I've noticed playing it is that even if you do draw your Runed Halo, they just end up like holding all their fetches. And they draw, like, they get a Valakut in play, they hold up all their fetch lands until they can kill you in one go. Okay, what is my iPad doing? Okay, they thought I said, hey Siri. Anyway, if they draw a Valakut, it just seems really bad because you don't have any hexproof creatures. All your creatures die to 1 or 2 Valakut triggers, and so if you start to kill them with creatures, they can eventually they can like just crack a land and kill your creature, or play a land and kill a creature. And so even when I had Rune Halo in play, they just eventually killed me with like a giant Titan or something that I finally couldn't counter, and killed all my other stuff, and it didn't seem very good. I think in that matchup, you really just need to try as best you can to be as aggressive as possible. And as far as boarding, I typically don't play Spell Snare because I just want to counter their business spells, and I really don't want to counter, and I still stand by this, like, if you're Spell Snaring, so this is one of your precious card draws you're going to get against that deck, and if you use it on a card that they have 12 of, ramp spells, that just feels terrible. It does slow them down, and in the Geist deck, I might consider using it because the clock is so quick, but this deck doesn't always have a super fast clock, and so I think I just want to try to be countering the stuff that matters and sort of hoping that they don't draw Valakut. Okay, so then round 6, I played against Burn. We went 3 games. I won. There's not much to say. It was Burn. It played out like Burn matches do. And then round 7 was kind of unfortunate. I played it because I wanted to go 5-2. The problem is they posted what I thought were the standings. It turned out to be the pairings. I was late for my match. I was issued a game loss. I won the first game that we played. I thought they were junned because I saw like 2 red-green lands, and I want to say a Verdant Catacomb, and I thought they just kept a sketchy hand with no black because I saw Goyf and Scavenging News. Turns out that they were Naya Company. I didn't board correctly. I didn't keep a hand that was good against Naya Company, but it would have been good against a slower deck like Jund, and he just completely kicked my teeth in game 3. So that's how Geneva went, and I ended up going 4-3. The tournament in Lyon obviously went better. It wasn't as big, whereas Geneva was 107 or 108 players. Geneva was 107 or 108 players. Lyon was only 30 players. It was 5 rounds of Swiss and a top 8. Round 1 was against Remy playing Grixis Control. He said he was new. I don't think he was new to Magic, but I want to say he was new to Modern or maybe new to the deck. It was a super nice guy. I thought that he played pretty well. Both of our games were extremely grindy. In round 1, I beat him. I had 4 life. He had 1 life. And then game 2, I beat him. I had 1 life. And I killed him at one point when he had 5 life. As far as how you want to board in that matchup, I just take out all of my burn. I take out like the helixes and the lightning bolts and start there. Obviously you want to bring in your Ancestral Visions, your Dispels, your Negates, Cryptic Command. Unfortunately, they are a deck that can grind better. Blade Splicers help because even if they call against Command a Blade Splicer, you're kind of okay with that because that's normally one of their card advantage cards. But now they're just 1-for-1ing your Blade Splicer, so that's kind of fine. And if they don't have a call against Command for it and they have to spend two spells on the Blade Splicer, you're kind of okay with that as well. Round 2 was against Green-White Tron. Game 1, I put some creatures in play and burned him out, basically. Game 2, I Vendilion clicked him, saw a Wormcoil Engine, let him keep the Wormcoil Engine because next turn I was going to be able to keep up Cryptic Command and I had a Path to Exile. I was just going to have to take 1 hit from the Wormcoil Engine, so that's exactly what happened. He cast Wormcoil Engine, he attacked me with it on turn 4. I took 6, I went down to 10, he went up to 23. I pathed the Wormcoil Engine, ended up holding up Cryptic Command. At one point, he cast not a World Breaker, but the colorless with the green mana that lets them, maybe it is World Breaker. Anyway, the one that exiles like a land or an enchantment. So the land that he exiled, I floated a blue and cast Ceremonious Rejection to kill it. He also had a Sanctum of Ugin, and he had gotten an Ulamog. He was forced to kill the Vendilion Click or the Restoration Angel, which I think was correct. Like, he could have easily gone for the lands, but I think he felt like there was a good chance that creature may die, and if he didn't kill the creatures, then he was certainly going to die, which is what happened. He killed, I had a Spell Queller or a Snapcaster Mage, I can't remember, in play, and a Restoration Angel. He killed the Click and the Resto. I Ceremonious Rejectioned the not World Breaker. Maybe it is World Breaker. Whatever that card is. And then I snap pathed the Ulamog. I still had a Cryptic on my hand, and then I killed him that way. Eventually, like, Bolt Snap bolted him out or something like that. Not a good matchup, but it went my way, which is kind of how you win tournaments. You need luck on your side. Round 3 was against Michael playing blue-white control. Against green-white Tron, you went like negate, ceremonious rejection. This is not the list I played. I made a mistake. I had one of Stony Silence. Obviously, I brought that in. You went the extra Cryptic Command. I brought in the Ancestral Visions as well, because you can't kill them, like, usually can't kill them super fast, so you kind of just setting up for an unfortunate long game with that deck. Against blue-white control, take out the Helix, take out the bolts, dispels, negates, cryptics, ancestral visions, all that stuff. He was not a tap-out version unlike the one from the last tournament. He was like Jace and Wall of Omens and Ojutai's Command. I feel like that game is the one where I kind of made my first real mistake. He played Ojutai. I was a bit flustered. On the following turn, he attacked me with it, and I played a Vendilion Click. At the end of his turn, he opted to untap the Ojutai, and I had a Path to Exile in hand, and I guess I was just feeling flustered, and I just said okay. But I totally could have attempted to path it with the ability on the stack, and I just didn't, and so that was annoying. Game 2, I just had all the answers for everything he tried to do. I played it as end step. I killed him. Obviously, those 2 games took a long time, so Game 3 we went to time, and then in turns he was like, I don't think I can beat you, and maybe we should just draw if you can't beat me. And I was looking at a hand of like double Cryptic, Dispel, maybe like Snapcaster Mage or 2. I was like, yeah, I can't kill you. So in the interest of time, we just drew. So that was my first draw. That was round 3. Round 4 was Valentine or Valentin. He was playing Bantel Drazi. The first game, I don't remember exactly how it played out, but I pretty much just, looking at things here, I eventually Spell Quellered him, was hitting him with a Spell Queller. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I killed him with creatures and burn. Game 2, he drew poorly. I killed a few things he did play, countered like an Ancient Stirrings. He drew 3 or 4 lands in a row, and that was pretty much it. I killed him with creatures. I intentionally drawed round 5 because I could. I guess probably because there was only 30 players. I had 11 points, so I was guaranteed for top 8. My first top 8 opponent was Green-Black Death Cloud. I felt like the deck was extremely well suited for that matchup. You just brought in all your counter spells, took out your Blade Splicers, and just played, brought in Ancestral Visions. I resolved like 2 visions that game. He had like 3 cards in hand. He Inquisitioned me, and he conceded because I had a hand of like Cryptic Command, Snapcaster Mage, and like 10 lands or something like that. So the first game was a good game though. I killed 2 Lilianas with burn, I think, and we were both in top deck mode. And it looked like the game was in his favor, but I managed to top deck a Blade Splicer, which kind of shut down his the green manland that it's a 3/3 with trample and reach, I think. Maybe it doesn't have reach, maybe it's just trample. I can't remember the name of it. It's not the green-white one, it's just the mono green one. He was unable to attack. I eventually was able to play a Restoration Angel and blink a Blade Splicer and start killing him in the air. And that's more or less how that matchup ended. My second top 8 opponent was Elves. I saw my opponent play. I thought he played really well. It seemed to sequence perfectly. Game 1, I made another mistake. He just tapped out. I was taking over the game, and I had him down to 10, and I had like Resto in hand, a Path. I had a Resto on the board, a Resto in hand, and a Path. And he just had a bunch of dudes. And he played a Craterhoof Behemoth, and I let it resolve, which is fine because I had no choice. But what I should have done is path it with the trigger on the stack. The other creatures would have gotten, it was like 4 or 5 creatures, 4 creatures maybe. I was at 10 life. They would have gotten less of a buff. And if I had pathed then and then blocked with the Restoration Angel, I think I would have gone to, I think it was 2 life. and I would have been able to crack back for 6. I don't remember what I drew, but the important point was I wouldn't be dead. But it was a misplay. I let the trigger resolve. This is one area where Magic Online is a bit easier because you see the trigger on the stack, so you're like, oh, I need to respond to the trigger. Second game, I won. Just, I mean, in the way that you would guess. Like, I saved my Dispels for the important stuff. I decided to play Queller instead of Blade Splicer, which is, I think, a good idea because you could, like, tap out for Blade Splicer on 3, and then they can just completely go off and just overrun Blade Splicer and not care. Whereas Spell Queller interacts with everything important in their deck, their chords, their collected companies, but most importantly, it means that if they like, he played a Shaman of the Pack, thinking that it was definitely going to resolve, but I was able to Spell Queller it, even though he had Cavern of Souls, and I think I also Spell Queller like a collected company and maybe a Elvish Archdruid. I don't remember, but Spell Queller was really good in that matchup, and he didn't have, any way to interact with it. And then in Game 3, Game 3 was pretty long and grindy. I think I navigated Game 3 relatively well, though, and just kind of leveraged my life total as much as I can up until going all the way down to 2. And at the very end, he had like a collected company, but I had been saving a Dispel for it. I was able to finally resolve 1 Ancestral Vision. You might think that they're too slow, but my thought was, well, if I don't slow him down, like if I don't have a hand that slows him down anyway with like Bolt and Helix and stuff, then I'm probably dead anyway. So the only way I'm winning is if I really slow him down, at which point you think, okay, then maybe that gives me time to resolve an Ancestral Vision. Finally, the third top 8 match was against Death Shadow Jund. I want to talk a bit about this. I was starting to play kind of sloppy at this point. I was feeling pretty tired. There was one point where I think there was a discrepancy in the life total that I had, and then they recorded the match, the little iPhone that they were making us use so that the life displayed on the video. There was like a discrepancy or something because I don't know what I did, but I thought he was at 8 life, and so he attacked me with the giant Death Shadow and Tarmogoyf, and I was going to block the Goyf with the Snapcaster Mage and then Helix him. He Tribal Flames, or not Tribal Flames, but the Tribal Instant, he played that to kill my Snapcaster Mage, and stupidly I just Helixed him in response. Like, that means I took extra damage from the Death Shadow that I didn't need to. At this point I just wasn't playing well. I wasn't dead to the attack, so there was no, I should have just taken the damage and Helix at the end of turn. But then, like, I untapped and I think I just bolted him, so, or maybe I bolted him. I don't remember, but they were like, why didn't you just kill him? And I was like, because he was at 8. And they were like, he was at 5. And anyway, the real mistake, though, was, I played against the deck a couple of times online, but I feel like the deck I played against it mostly was Geist. And so I just boarded as I would against Jund, which turned out to be really bad. Their clock is so fast, I don't think you can rely on Ancestral Vision, and I don't know that you need it as much because they're not as grindy as Jund anyway. Also, and I was like, maybe I just want to keep the Spell Quellers because, outside of them bringing in Fatal Push, they don't normally run Terminates. They probably don't have a way to kill it unless they bring in the Fatal Pushes, and it interacts with all of their creatures and all of their stuff. And even though I thought that, I decided to just stick with the Jund plan. I boarded them out. I boarded as I would against Green Black X. It was just kind of too slow, plotty, and grindy. I don't think you want the Visions. I think you want to keep the Quellers. And I actually think that you want to keep the Burn. Because, the first game I beat him by just burning him out. And I think you kind of got to stick to that plan. So I'm going to try to, as much as I can, invest some time into figuring out exactly how to pilot against the Death Shadow Jund deck. I actually think that we have a reasonable game. Like, I think our deck's pretty reasonable against it. That's one reason this Valor Stance is in here. That and Tron. Like, Valor Stance is kind of narrow, but there's a lot that our removal doesn't necessarily kill in the format right now. And there's like 5 decks that it comes in against. Like, both Tron decks, Abzan, Jund, and then Death Shadow. So I think it's a fine spell. There's like 5 tier 1 decks that it comes in against, so I think it's fine to have it in the sideboard. I'm going to give you path number 5. So so that's the deck I played. That is more or less just a quick tournament report. I just have a minute, so I have to run. But a couple what I want to point out. I think I played okayish. Like I played fine. I played good, but there was like I said, I made some dumb mistakes. But I do think, but by the very end, I didn't feel like I was playing very well. I just felt mentally fatigued. I was tired. We slept in a hotel. My family came. I didn't sleep very well because my son was waking up at night, of course. And so, I went to the tournament feeling mentally tired. That never helps. But I mean, I still had a great tournament, right? Like, it wasn't, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on myself. Like, I don't want to make that big of a deal about it because it was a 30-person tournament. It's not like I, went 14 rounds. So obviously it's not as lofty as something like that. But hey, you know what? I think making second at any tournament, winning a bunch of rounds of Magic and playing through a top 8, it's fun. And maybe it's not like a huge accomplishment, but it's still an accomplishment. And I'm glad that, I was able to improve on my last tournament with the deck. So, okay, guys, I got to run. Is there anything else I wanted to mention? I don't think so. If I was going to play in another tournament this weekend, I would probably play this list again. Obviously, if I played against graveyard decks, that would be sad, but I didn't. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to run, guys. I got to go. Draw well, smash face, and I'll talk to you soon.